Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today I want to welcome all the hosts we feature on the Forbidden Knowledge Network. We have host of Raised by Giants, Ryder Lee. What's up, Ryder?
What's up, Chris? Happy to be here with all of you lovely people.
We've got host of Inception Podcast, Gloria Canning. What's up, Gloria?
Absolutely. I don't know what's up. What's up, Chris? Thanks for inviting me.
We got host of Understanding Propaganda and FKN Crypto, Cory Hughes. What's up, Cory? I think he's here. We got host of The Ancient Gift, October Hallum. Hello, October.
Hello, Chris.
And finally, host of the Quantum Guide Show, Karen Holton. Karen, how you doing?
I'm doing great, but I have a naughty kitty here, so if she starts tearing apart my green screen, I might have to deal with it.
No, that's okay. We welcome the naughty kitties. However, we have never done a show to officially introduce the hosts and the shows on the network, which you find at forbiddenknowledge.news. That's our website. These shows are also, they're my favorite shows to listen to. Whenever I want to find out what's going on in the world, I tune in to one of these lovely hosts. The guests are always top-notch. The hosts are what make this network great. And I thought we could bring everybody here and talk about what they're doing here. So let's start with Cory. Cory and I have been together since pretty much the beginning, and we put the network together. And we've got, like I said, the best host that you could ever ask for and the best shows on here. I watch them all the time. But tell us about yours. Tell us about Understanding Propaganda and FKN Crypto.
Sure. Both shows I started out of a need for them in the marketplace. There really is not a good show to listen to and really come to understand the ins and outs of propaganda. And while the world seems to be flooded with crypto shows, they're flooded with crypto shows that are put out by a bunch of morons. Crypto is really, most people look at it like it's fucking, alchemy in like the 1600s, like it's some sort of wizardry, and it's really not. And so what I do with the FKN Crypto is I try to explain fundamental principles to kind of shape people's understanding of the markets and of what crypto is. So that one turned out to be a little harder than expected. I figured that, I know a lot about crypto. It'd be easy for me to pump out shows, but I tell you, the video aspect of the shows I put out takes forever. So there's a lot of production that goes into them. So yeah, check them out those are on YouTube, believe it or not. I'm trying not to be controversial with them in the traditional sense. So yeah, those are on Rumble, YouTube, and I think we should probably get them up everywhere else.
Yeah, and right now more than ever, there's definitely a need to understand propaganda because we're surrounded by it every day. Did you, before you started understanding propaganda, before you got as deep as you are into your Kennedy research that you are now, did you realize how much everything was fake?
No, not even remotely close. Like, you have this semblance of reality that we fucking live in. And then when you come to understand the real reality we live in, you'll come to understand the vast majority of historical events that we come to accept as at face value are most of the time completely planned in advance, scripted, staged events that are used to shape public perception. So, everything from the Kennedy assassination to 9/11, all the big conspiracies and a whole bunch of stuff most people have never heard of, or all, they're all intentionally used to achieve an agenda, right? And so when I really started digging, really what got it for me was, I'm going to reference like Sandy Hook here for a second. So Sandy Hook, the conspiracy theory on Sandy Hook was that it was a community-wide capstone event, right? That it involved the entire community, right? From the fire department to the police department to the churches and I'm like, there's no way in hell that you can coordinate something like that amongst a general population of civilians who are non-military, non-intelligence. It's not even possible. Well, then the more I dug into Kennedy, the more I realized Kennedy was bigger than a capstone of a community. It involved every goddamn 3-letter agency, the local police, the local sheriff, the local district attorney's office, the mayor's office, and a whole bunch of citizens who were somehow connected to the mafia, right? So yes, you can most certainly stage an event on that scale. And that's when I realized that most of the events that we've come to understand throughout American history were fully staged, planned, and the outcomes were predetermined.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking sickening. Now, another exciting thing we got coming is Forbidden Knowledge News Con, and I actually have Cory to thank for that. The original Forbidden Knowledge News Con started as his idea, and we just built from there, and it's turned into a great, amazing thing, and actually a lot of people have taken our idea and run with it, which is, it's a beautiful thing. It's quite flattering to know that we kind of started a little online trend here with conferences, but we do have another one coming up, March 11th, 12th, and 13th. We got a couple of the presenters right here. Cory, do you happen to know what you'll be presenting yet?
Yes, but that information is redacted.
Gotcha. Well, we'll be looking forward to it.
Let me just say, it is going to fucking rock everybody's world.
All right. Awesome, man. Well, we'll be looking forward to that. And definitely keep your ears peeled to the information that we'll be putting out about everybody's presentation in the near future. All right, let's go to Karen. I see you, Karen, up there in the corner. How are you today, Karen?
I'm doing just fine, Chris. Thank you for inviting me today. My show, I've been doing my show for a couple of years, but it's just really starting to take off now. I got my 1,000 subscribers. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Awesome.
And and I'm getting, lots of views. I'm really happy about that. It's been a real labor of love. And my show is basically a platform for the newly awakened, or for those that are awakening or have already awakened, but they're isolated because of their belief systems. And so it's sort of a jumping off point where I introduce issues that, that the newly awakened people would want to know about, all kinds of alternative things, things that are going on in the world. Different people come on with different skills. Tomorrow, I'm having the lovely October, along with my other friend Laura Lee, on my show. And we're going to do a bit of an intuitive assessment around 2021. And we're going to do some intuitive predictions around 2022. And so it's sort of a starting off platform. It's there's nothing too startling on there, but it's a good place for people to start out, refer it to their friends, and it gives them, more of a feeling of being more socially part of a group. And I think that's really important. So with the show, what I did was I created the show that I needed when I was going through the waking up process. And I got to tell you, it was a very disturbing thing for me to find out that pretty much everything we're told is lies, and almost none of it is in our best interests. And so, looking around, I found Forbidden Knowledge News, which is how I basically got fed the information I needed. And I still rely on your show, Chris, and of course, Cory, Gloria, Ryder, to get all kinds of pieces of the puzzle so I can put my own analysis together and kind of get it straight in my own mind, what's going on in the world. So I wanted to offer that to other people, make that available for them.
Right on. Now, I asked Cory about how his views about propaganda and lies have changed throughout the years. For you, what are some of the most profound things that you've learned just about anything, the nature of reality, from the time you started actually doing your show to now? Is there anything that has kind of changed for you or shifted?
Yes, I think that what shifted for me is, as I've gone along with the process of doing this show, my eyes are opened wider and wider and wider as I discover more aspects. So, I used to be very aware that the food system was actually toxifying the population and holding people back. I knew that about religion. I knew that about politics, but now I've discovered through doing the show and the guests that I've had on, everything is toxic, everything is polluted. And in fact, the elites refer to us as a herd, and no different than the cows and the sheep. And so what I'm really liking about what's going on today is we're waking everybody up that no, we got, I'm not saying anything wrong with cows and sheep, but we got a hell of a lot more going on for us. We have a lot more power than I ever realized before as well. So it's been a kind of a combination of learning and adjusting to what I've learned, and fine tuning my own belief system, which is always in flux as new information comes in. But it's also been very, very good, I think, for exposing what's really going on. And I love being a part of this movement.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Karen. Ryder, what's up, man? How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, and I appreciate you asking me to come on the show with these beautiful, lovely hosts. And I kind of started my show because I had all this information, right? Like from a very, very young age. I was actually just talking about this with somebody last night, that I remember laying in my bed and like getting all of this information when I was really young. Like I would get sacred geometry like put into my brain whenever I shut my eyes. I could see the molecular structure of the air. Like it would look like little tiny dots, like beings would come out of the walls at me at night. And then, I had all of this information, and I didn't have like any way to share it because everybody else in my reality wasn't getting it. They didn't understand it, right? I would try and talk to people about it, and they didn't get it. So all the information just kind of imploded upon itself to a certain degree, and I didn't have a healthy outlet to be able to share it with people. And then I started, watching YouTube channels like yours, Chris, and other people that are no longer on YouTube anymore because they've been, deplatformed. But then I was like, well, I feel like I can do this too, and I'm going to try and do it at the best of my ability. And also, I think spirituality is a really good place to start because we have a bunch of different awakenings through our entire life, right? My first awakening was to the corruption and the propaganda and like all that, and 9/11 and the monetary system and religion and all that. And then it kind of evolved over time. Then it turned into the nature of reality. What are we doing here? How do we, what's happening? Are we in a simulated reality? Are we in a matrix? And then, I was like, well, I just want to talk about it, with other people and, try and figure it out and, start putting the pieces to the puzzle together, kind of like what Karen was talking about. And so here we are.
Right on. And same question along the same lines. What is some of the most profound information, or what is something that really kind of shifted your perception from the time you started doing this until now?
I think just the whole perception in general, right? That's how we're so easily manipulated, is by our perception. Like the media puts out a thought and an idea and then gets us to believe in that thought and idea, and our thoughts create our reality. And I know that's a very regurgitated saying, but it's very, very true. What we think about, we bring about, right? So if you're constantly thinking about something, negative circumstances, things that are happening in the world, you're just reinforcing that with a hammer and you're pounding it in. So we have to be able to flip that in our mind. And whenever we're able to flip it, then we create our own kind of reality. And, belief and perception around that belief is literally everything. And that's how how we manifest things in our reality, and our imagination is a very key factor in all this too. And a big issue is that our imagination has been hijacked and taken away from us. And then there's been things planted in our subconscious. Like we keep, as a human species, the mass human species, we constantly want to be thinking about the most negative outcome all the time, right? And whenever we constantly keep thinking of the most negative outcome, we're bringing that into our reality. We're inadvertently manifesting that in our reality. So, that I try and bring different thoughts, different ideas, different beliefs all to the table, and not ever be locked into any certain perception or any certain beliefs, because that's a trap, right? I want to expand, and I want to think outside of the box, and I want to be creating new ideas, new thoughts, new beliefs, no matter how wacky they might be. It's a threat to the system, right? So I guess my best advice is to create something new and figure out something new. And I think that that's what it's all about.
Right on, Space Daddy. Well, thank you so much. All right, Gloria, how did you get in this little Zoom box right there?
I don't know. Someone put me here. More likely you magicked me in. Gosh, out of the blue. Coming up to a year, 9th of February. It was, I suppose, really due to contact and information. Then I got up one day and said, I'm going to do chat shows. I had no idea what I was doing, why I was doing it. I had no experience in doing it. And I've learned along the way. Inception podcast come later on after Open Minds. And that was the big one for me. And I'm so grateful I met you and Cory. You gave me a platform to get the shows out there and the message out there. So Inception came about itself. That's why it's called Inception. It was the seed. It's a platform to fall down the rabbit hole. Every individual guest that comes on has their own truth of who they are, why they're here, what they're doing, and the nature of reality. And Chris, for the past year, I have learnt and learnt and learnt. My truths have changed and changed. And I've met some really, really beautiful souls that I never dreamed I would ever encounter. So, and I'm still on that roller coaster now.
Yes. And same thing for you. What's the largest thing that may have shifted in your perception, or maybe the most profound thing you learned along the way?
I think the most profound thing, and I say it humbly, is I don't know jack shit. Every time someone comes on the show, if I don't get it something straight away, then I'll just go, shh, I don't know nothing. That's the most profound. And I like that space because it opens me up for the next guest and the next experience and next discussion. And it opens me up that I can discuss anything I choose to discuss. What was the other question? There was two there, weren't there?
Well, if you could either or. If you want to tell us about if there's anything that's shifted in your thinking or the way you perceive things since you started.
The major thing I discussed with you on my show the other day is that has a major shift. I mean, big time is the cycles, is these repeated cycles and who's doing it, us. So that is the biggest one. I never dreamed I'd go down that rabbit hole, but that's the big one for me. Looking at the hidden history of humanity, but not in the normal way. It's more in a, I don't know how to explain it, maybe more metaphysical, more expanded way. And that is due to the likes of yourself and the other hosts on here and other guests on my show. That has really shifted recently. And it's something that is not going anywhere.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for being on the network, Gloria. October, welcome. You are our newcomer. Your show has yet to air, but really looking forward to it. Tell us, what made you want to get started, and tell us a little bit about what it's going to be about. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Can hear you now. Yes.
Okay. Helps to unmute it. Sorry about that. The Ancient Gift is going to be a show that basically investigates unturned rocks of history. You know, look for the hidden truths, exploring philosophy, confronting the controversial, and embracing the paranormal, unpacking layer by layer. So by doing this, I will have experts, professionals, researchers, witnesses, and experiencers on a panel, and we will take a subject and we'll discuss it with kind of like a round table and go around and have everybody weigh in, you know, have if they've experienced something, if they're educated in that, and just kind of like try to explore the real truth. Because in my opinion, information has been weaponized in the last, 2000, it's about 2,000 years now. It's obvious now, and we've been manipulated by it. And religion has been weaponized as well to keep us in control, you know, control of us. So I'd like to explore those subjects. Like the first show will be on near-death experiences. Right. So it'll be an interesting show because I will have the Abrahamic religions represented. I will have a medium. I will have somebody who's experienced an NDE, a counselor and or psychologist, and an archaeologist and an anthropologist, because I would like to get what the ancients thought of, you know, life after death, like what they know about what they have discovered and researched in history of, you know, like what did the Egyptians think about it and the Sumerians and things like that. So it'll be kind of an interesting show, I think.
Well, for sure. And same thing for you, but, you know, since you haven't started your show, I guess since you started kind of looking into these alternative topics and you know, going down the current path you're on, what's the most profound things you learned and maybe if something shifted in your perception?
Well, you know, for a very long time, being raised as a Southern Baptist Christian, I always had a lot of fear and guilt associated with questioning those teachings. And now that I have reached to the point where I'm at now, and I have realized that, you know, the truth is really connecting to yourself. That, you know, in other words, understanding this reality, that the reality that we're participating in, and everybody's reality is different. What we could see the exact same phenomena, like a shooting star. I would describe it one way probably, and you would describe it another way. So it's just kind of understanding that all of these things are parts of something that's happening in a much larger scale. And as Cory has said, we have been lied to and tricked and continually controlled by manipulation. So I would like to explore, like I would love to have a show on propaganda and obviously have Cory on there. So I would like to explore all these topics that lend us in fear, that get us scared, you know, that make people rise up and fight with each other, polarize us, right? All these things that are currently happening right now. So I just think like the awakening that I've had in the last few years has been paramount to who I am today and my goals in my future, and trying to get the word out, like all of you guys, you know, as much as possible to as many people that want to listen to it.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the network, and thank you so much.
Thank
We're
you.
looking forward to your show is going to be putting out.
Thank you.
Podcasting it's still kind of like the Wild West, still in many ways uncharted territories. I'm still learning a lot about it. But I think that, you know, I definitely got in at a good time, and we're all getting in there at a really good time. Podcasting is really starting to take off, but the future's kind of weird and uncertain, and I'm hoping that censorship doesn't attach to podcasting like it has to everything else that we're getting our information from. It's amazing that it hasn't, and I'm super glad, knock on wood, that, you know, I don't want this to ever happen, and I would hope that things can still stay the way they've been as far as podcasting goes, but you never know. There's a lot happening, a lot shifting. I want to get everybody's thoughts on this, on the future of where podcasting is going, because I think that it's enormous. This is where entertainment is going. People aren't, you know, watching Hollywood movies anymore. People are listening to fucking podcasts, and it's a really exciting time, but it's a kind of unsure time, I think, as well. I want to get Cory. Let's start with you. What do you think about this?
Well, it's complicated. The shift has already occurred. Joe Rogan's the number one show in the world. Period. like 11 million plus per episode. He got 50 million on the Malone episode. There are no corporate media or TV shows or anything doing those kind of numbers, except maybe some of the weird Twitch and YouTube streamers. Some of them make fucking ridiculous numbers that I just can't comprehend. 50 million fucking viewers on a video of somebody playing video games. I don't get it. But, you know, that stuff excluded, you know, podcasts, the number one show in the world is a podcast. And so I think we're there. The problem with being independent and the problem with the podcast market is that there are like 5 million podcasts or something like that. And it's extremely difficult to break through to get numbers that are sustainable, you know. So yeah, it's a mixed bag, but I think that the shift has already been made. And the reason that podcasts are so successful are because it's a multitasking thing, right? You can listen to a podcast while you do something else, like what people used to do with the radio. But who the fuck wants to listen to the radio, right? Like they just play what they want you to hear. And then if you find some good talk radio, maybe someone listens like Rush Limbaugh, you're stuck with Rush Limbaugh for 3 hours and that's it. Podcasts, they're all new. They're all fresh. There's new stuff coming out every day. And you have such a wide variety. It's great for the consumer for sure.
Yeah, it is. And do you think that it'll be affected by this wave of censorship that we've been seeing?
Yeah, but it's different. We have a lot of options, right? So let's say the hammer fell on us and they cut off our monetization, we'd be fucked. We would have to jump to another platform, right? And one that has the same kind of package that we're getting now, right, to pick up the revenue stream. But because that's available, and there's always new podcast companies coming up giving you those options, it's harder and harder because your podcast stream never changes, right? You just leave a forwarding address, and so you never lose any subscribers or anything like that when you jump from company to company. But since there are so many options in companies, it's harder and harder for them. Plus, when you look at the market, and I don't know what the numbers are, I'm going to make something up. If it gets to a point where like 60% of the goddamn market is something that would be censored, right? They're not going to cut off their nose to spite their face. You know what I mean? So, I mean, look at what's going on with Spotify and Joe Rogan right now. It's hilarious. They're making so much money off of that fucking guy. He could get up there and like slaughter babies and they would fucking still let him do it. You know? So, yeah, I think the censorship is going to be there. And what they'll probably do is target people who can't fight back, right? People who can't afford to sue them.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're in that boat right now. But hey, you know, you never know what could happen. But it is interesting. Kara, what do you think about the whole podcasting world and in the future, where it's going?
Well, I think that it's a whole new horizon, and you're right, it's like the wild, wild west, but people are so sick and tired of the mush that's offered in mainstream media that they're just curious. And so they come on to watching podcasts. Some of them, like when I first started watching podcasts, some of the podcast information I thought was completely ridiculous, but it was certainly entertaining and it had my view. And I've learned so much. And what I don't like, I can switch off and turn something else on. It's amazing. I think it's a real blessing for humankind. The other thing I wanted to say is that it's very much, in my opinion, like mainstreaming the fringes. So the mainstream people never really got to know anything about the fringes. And then, of course, the mainstream launched the words conspiracy theory to discredit anybody that stepped outside of the box. Well, now everybody's in love with what's outside of the box. Everybody's sick of what's inside the box. And the things that have been happening over the last few years have really illustrated that being inside of the box is not in our best interest. And so what's happened is the podcasters were mainstreaming the fringes. You can learn about anything. You can learn all kinds of different perspectives on anything, like, ancient archaeology, ET experiences. And it's juicy. It's satisfying. It tastes good. It's something we want more of. And so I think we're just emerging on a movement that can't be shut down, because we're going to bring revenues to the different platforms. And so if we can hang in there and keep producing the best content we can, listening to our viewers, taking seriously what our viewers want more of and giving it to them, people are just going to keep coming back. And I think those of us that are in it for the long haul are going to see a payoff in that we'll have some decent careers for ourselves. And also be doing something amazing, which is helping other people to get unstuck and outside of the molds, and to get back into free thinking and critical thinking and all the things that will make society and our world in general a better place to live. So I see nothing but good things for the future. I cannot see how it could get shut down. But what's going to happen, I think, is that more platforms are also going to be created so that the podcasters have more choice on where we want to go, where we want to be treated with respect. And we don't want to be constantly in fear of being shut down because the platform doesn't like us using certain words or concepts. So I think the whole thing's going to blow open. We're going to have more freedom. We're going to have more options. And I'm just really, really excited to be part of this movement.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Karen. What do you think, Ryder? How you feel about the future of podcasting?
Well, I mean, it's an amazing thing. And I think that podcasting has really become a mainstream thing because people can listen to different thoughts, ideas, and beliefs that they can't really talk about in real life. Right. That's what I found doing my podcast. Like, I can't talk about the things that I talk about on my show in real life with regular everyday people, and it gives them a different outlook and a different perception that they might not necessarily believe in, but they'll take it into consideration while listening to it. Right. If I started going up to, random people in the grocery store and talking to them about ET contact and like all this stuff, they think that I was crazy, but I feel like that if they can listen to it in a different kind of way, then their minds might be a little more open to it. It kind of solidifies it because, it's kind of like a boogeyman of sorts. Like, they don't know the person personally, right? They're just on the internet, and they don't have to they can sit in their home, they can sit on their toilet, they can be washing dishes, they can be driving in their car, exactly like what Cory said about that you can be listening to it at any point in time, right? And the person's not right in front of your face. So I think that's a big reason why podcasts has become really popular. And then also it makes you feel like that you're not lonely, right? Because you're listening to other people talk. So if you're feeling alone or depressed or whatever, like I think that the majority of the population does at certain points in their life, then they can flip on a podcast and all of a sudden it's not like they're so alone anymore, right? But I think that the only way that it can get censored is if they trick the listeners into attacking the show. Right, exactly like what they've done with, Joe Rogan several times. They'll put it out. Oh, Joe Rogan did this. Joe Rogan did that. Joe Rogan said this. And then it gets people to be like, oh, what? He said that? Well, that's stupid, blah, blah, blah. And then we'll get on there and attack him. And then they'll put out all this stupid propaganda, twisting his words and making it seem like he said something whenever he didn't really say something. So it's kind of like a self-censoring type of scenario where your listeners they turn your listeners into your enemy. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that that's the only way I think that that's how it starts, right?
Right. That makes sense. Well, thank you, Ryder. Gloria, how do you feel about podcasting and the glorious future that could be ahead?
I like the word Gloria and the glorious future. I think podcasting, when I first met you, I didn't know what a podcast was, literally. Okay. And I think podcasting has and will continue to fill the gap and provide a service. And the last couple of years where everyone was isolated, that's when I think millions found the podcast, and thousands of creators started up like myself. And it doesn't just fill the gap from alternative media. I think the diversity of the podcasts, the topics, the subjects, it caters for everything, for everybody. You can have a podcast on like the likes of Cory's show, propaganda, people, they're into that, so they found a show or you could have a podcast on cooking. You can there isn't anything. And a lot of the help from podcast is given to those that are lonely. There's inspirational podcasts, there's motivational. I could go on forever. So I think podcasts have filled the gap. And I don't know about in America, but I know in the UK, the ratings are dropping with the mainstream media and platforms, because it's obviously the most depressing thing in the world to watch, especially when you're 24/7 locked up. So I think podcasts, they're just going to go. And I really don't think it'll ever be able to be censored, because it's like, excuse the pun, I don't know if I can say it, it's like a virus. Another one will pop up, another network will pop up, another producer will pop up and take over. And the streaming will just continue. And I think it's wonderful. I think it's a way to go. And I agree with the whole panel. Me being in the UK, I listen to Forbidden Knowledge News, breakfast with coffee, and to all your shows that you put out, Chris. I think many people are doing that now, instead of turning on that TV and, the propaganda comes out. So, I think it's fantastic. I'm loving the journey as long as it goes. But it's not just with the podcast. I'm finding for myself, I'm creating new platforms within the podcast world, and others are doing it too. Diverse topics I never thought. I've always wanted to talk about, and now I can talk about them. And so, I think it's fantastic. I don't think it'll ever be censored. It's the way to go. Definitely the way to go. Yeah.
All right. And October, how do you feel about it?
I think that podcast gives a person a chance to explore a world that they've always thought about maybe or entertained, but it went against everything they were programmed. Let's face it, we're all programmed from a very young age, and so this opportunity gives them a chance to explore in the privacy of their own home, whatever subjects or topics or headlines that are happening or have happened. Like I'm a history nut. I love history, and through podcasts, I have discovered this alternative history with people who are in academia, but their work isn't published, or their work is scoffed at, or their work is dismissed because it doesn't align with mainstream academia, right? So I think podcasting is a great way of maintaining in America our First Amendment, freedom of speech, whether it stays the way it is and we can evolve and kind of adapt to the changes that are headed our way. There are platforms that if you say a couple of words, you get banned for a week or two or permanently. And that's censorship, right? So social media, we know, has been censored. So I'm hoping all of you are correct. And it is this wonderful world that alleviates fear, right? It's our fear, against fear, and helps us expand our minds and our spirituality, and gives us some kind of peace about where we are, who we are, and where we're going as a species. That's what I think.
Awesome. Do you think we have to worry about censorship or being shut down on the podcast platforms?
I think that I won't use the word that Gloria used, but once that thing gets out into the general public and spreads, it adapts, right? It finds other hosts, and she's correct. I mean, and that's a great analogy, right? Because I don't think it will. I think that there might be attempts to, shut it down and make it like impossible for people. And then maybe like in a communist country, they're allowed, they can do that. They control their internet and everything. But with, democracies or republics or semi models of government agencies that call themselves those things, and we won't go there today. I think that that's going to be a much harder task, because like in the United States, you have a pretty strong group of people here that value our freedom and value our ability to choose for ourselves. And so I think if that ever really gets put on the line, I think at that point it would definitely be kind of a call to action for a lot of people. And I think people hopefully would get more involved if their freedoms and rights were threatened or started to get taken away, as we have seen, right? Already with a lot of things that have gone on in the last few years. There are a lot of people that are standing up and saying, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not doing this. So I'm hoping that if we stick together and we can get more people to wake up and understand what's really going on. That's why I think Cory Hughes' show and Understanding Propaganda is like so important, because propaganda has controlled humans throughout the millennia here, since the printed press was, invented in the 15th century. So we have to understand our history and to understand our present, where we are, and hopefully have control and direct our future.
Yes, definitely. It's interesting the domino effect that's had since the lockdowns. It's like Gloria said, after the people were forced to stay in their homes, they found podcasts, and podcasts blew up. And not only that, these kind of alternative topics that we all talk about got really popular too, and people started looking very closely at this stuff. And I think we've had some big victories so far when it comes to what's going on a grand scale. We all know what I'm talking about. And I think that's going to continue. I want to get all your thoughts on this. Do you think that we're headed in a right direction? Do you think that I think they're making some major mistakes and they don't have anything left that they could throw at us, and I think they're losing on a grand scale, and I think it's all going to fall apart, and we're going to see some major shifts in the next couple of years in a better way. I don't know. What do you guys think, Cory?
I don't know. They have contingencies for everything, so it doesn't matter if everything falls apart here. They'll come right back with something else. Yeah, so I don't know, man. Like I'm not
meteor, asteroid.
Yeah, I'm not one for hope, really.
Well, we can always hope for the meteor asteroid. October and I were talking about that the other day. Maybe it might be a little better. It's just a mass cleansing would occur. Who knows?
We just had one like that came 1 million miles from us.
Yeah, I saw that.
And like they don't tell us till like the day before. Then like, oh, it's gonna miss us. It's like, damn. I mean, really, if we knew it was out there heading towards us right now, like we'd be shitting our pants every night. Like COVID would be like nothing. They'd make everybody build a bomb shelter or something.
Yeah, our scientists don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
No, they don't. Like science, medicine, they're all a bunch of morons, really. Like they don't know nothing. They just pretend they do all the time.
Yes, and we're going off of the pretending. It's crazy. All right, Karen, give us some hope here. What do you got?
Well, I think that when we take a stand that is a minority stand, or a stand that is outside of what the propaganda is trying to push, we become truth tellers. I think we have a very important function in society. And so what happens is, and what I have seen happen is, I think that a lot of what's going on in the world today, and for lack of a better word, I just call it shenanigans, put out by the health industry and the government and everything else, and they're all in cahoots together. Well, we're not going to get any truth. No one's going to find out the truth through any of them. But here we are, shining our lights, speaking our truth, even if our truth is fluid and changes as we learn and we gain more insight. But what's happened, I've noticed, especially in the last year, many people who were resistant to questioning the government, questioning the forces that be, questioning especially the medical industry, talk about a religion. And so what's happened is people's eyes are being opened, and they're getting on there and they're telling their stories, and they're getting braver and bolder. I live in Canada, and right now we have this massive trucker convoy thing happening, and it's uniting people in a way that I haven't seen for a long time. We're becoming like a family, and we're all in this together, and we're not going to give up. And so hope has come back to Canada, where everyone, even 3 months ago, were so depressed and demoralized, especially because our prime minister is telling everybody that we're misogynists and we're racists and we're really bad people and we're domestic terrorists, for God's sakes. So you see, now what happens is every time they come in and try to stop something or tell their lies through the mainstream media, people are just laughing at them because they're making asses of themselves with their lies and their phony baloney. And so what's happening is we're seeing a uniting. We're seeing more and more people putting faith into what they're learning on social media. Social media is giving people a way to join energies, to focus, whether it's on doing global meditations for peace, whether it's being part of a big convoy. It's just amazing. And now that people have an appetite for it, that's not going to go away. So even if they start, censoring social media more, or even shut us down one way or another, people are now hungry for the truth. And enough people have lost faith in the powers that don't have our best interests at heart. They're starting to question, starting to wake up. I'm sure there's a certain percentage of the population, though, that's going to stay asleep because they just want to stay asleep, and there's not much we can do about that. But more and more people are waking up, and it's interesting to see that our best or our strongest allies coming out now against the medical tyranny are people who have succumbed, or at the time they chose to have partake in a device that's not tested. And now they're pissed off. And so there's more and more people that are waking up, but our best advocates are the people who've actually fell for the bullshit, learned the truth, and now they're coming out in droves, speaking out. So I just see it as being extremely positive. And you're right, Cory, there's always going to be contingent plans. But you know what? There's one thing I know for a fact. And that is the people that are making these plans, the elites, whatever you want to call them, they are highly psychopathic, which means they do not have the ability to have compassion or to have empathy. They lack mercy. They lack a layer of understanding and spirituality that they can't have because they don't have that, for whatever reason, whether they sold their soul to the devil or whether it was their bad upbringing, I don't know. I'm not qualified to say. But what I do know is that the psychopaths have very little imagination. And so those people that are farthest removed from psychopathy have the greatest imaginations. And so, we're going to see, in my belief system, we're going to see a resurgence of people like Tesla and Wilhelm Reich and all these masters who came out and could have profoundly affected in a positive way the way things are going on Earth. I think we're going to see a lot more of that too. So I remain hopeful.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Karen. What about you, Ryder? You got any hope for our future? How do you think this is going to turn out?
Well, I want to have hope. I really do. I want to have a lot of hope. But the problem is, based on past actions, based on how we have been constantly giving our power away to illusionary outside sources, this is all a test, right? And the dark side and the light side work in tandem, right? And I think people have a very confused outlook on the way that they work. It's actually the light side that's the ones that's testing you. Right, it's the light side. The one is the one that's seeing. Will you give your power away? Right, it's not the dark side. It's actually the light side. Right, and things just don't change if there's no action put behind them. Right, things just don't fall out of the sky and onto our lap whenever we hope and pray for it. That's not the way that it works. There has to be action behind it. So all the people that are talking about, oh yeah, these med beds are going to come out next week and then we're all going to be healed and blah, 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 blah. Like, what are you talking about? They want to kill us all. They don't want to heal us. What do you mean the med beds are coming? Oh, the Galactic Federation is coming down to save everybody. Ashtar Command is coming down and is going to take 155,000 people up into space, and we're going to live in all this grandiose mansions and all this stuff with all this technology. I hate to break it to you.
Stuff?
Lots of butt stuff.
Sweet.
27,000 virgin ETs. But it's like we have all these like pipe dreams and things that don't make any logical or common sense, right? Based on the past, right? And if you look at the past, again, okay, so I think that we are going to win in the end, right? That things are going to turn out okay in the end, right? But it's going to be a very, very bumpy ride getting there. And a lot of things are going to happen that's going to catch a lot of people off guard if they are not prepared for it. Right. And whenever we get there, things are going to be way better, I think, anyway. Now, how we get there, I have no idea. It's going to take some kind of intervention on behalf of everybody, right? So that's what I think is going to happen. It's just a lot of things have to come down. A lot of things have to collapse, because either way it goes, if it goes the opposite direction and we get the technological enslavement, AI, surveillance state, Agenda 21 kind of reality, everything still has to collapse. It all still has to come down. Now, if we get the peaceful reality of the golden age where everyone's living in harmony, whatever, it still has to collapse. It all has to come down. Like, you can't build something good without it all going, all of the old systems collapsing. And then you can't build something even worse without all of the old systems collapsing either. So that's my thoughts.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Gloria, is that hope that I smell coming from you? Do you have what you got for us?
It's my new aftershave, darling.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. Okay.
It's my new aftershave. My future, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I don't need hope. My future is good. Where I come from on this perspective is I have no obstacles. I have nothing in my way. I can live my human experience and keep creating. I understand where you're asking the question from. So from that perspective, it's already done. Empires fall. We had this discussion about, the cycles. Empires fall and it's fallen. And I think I've seen just a limited amount of creativity, not just from podcasters, from people I've met in the street or friends I know that all of a sudden started this new business, or started to do that. They pulled away, and they're making money, and they're purchasing things. So I'm witnessing this. It doesn't reflect what I'm hearing other people talk about. Mine's different. Call me delusional, but I'm quite happy on my timeline. You know me, we've done it. We're already there. There'll be some bumpy roads for some. If you see them as bumpy roads, however, I'm afraid I can't give you a profound answer on that one. You know where I come from on this one, so.
I do, Gloria. We're 7 moves ahead, and they ain't got shit on us.
They got jack shit on us. Jack
That's right.
shit. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And October, what do you think? What should we be looking towards in our future?
Well, I mean, that's a very pliable question, right? Because if we stay on the current trajectory, then people who can maybe see into the future or line up with versions of it might tell you, we're going to end up here, or it could be, depending on how society acts or reacts, we could end up there. Like everyone kind of before me has said, whether they have hope or not hope. I do know, looking in history, right? Because I am a historian, looking back at history, the Dark Ages brought the Renaissance. And how did that happen? Well, the Black Plague, right? So I think that we do see some iterations of history kind of like repeating itself a little bit, especially with suppression and monitoring truth seekers like podcasters. That's what I call conspiracy people. Truth seekers is what I call them, because typically they've questioned the reality that they've been served, and they want to explore deeper into that. And that's what, propels them into getting into a podcast, right? So I think that as long as we question everything and we use our rights as human beings to explore the, answers that we want to really know, and we don't just accept from the mainstream, media, everything that they're putting out, I think there is hope. And I think that hope are in numbers. More people waking up means more people scratching their head and saying, something doesn't seem right, And I know personally, I don't know about anybody else, but in the last, let's say, 3 to 4 months, I feel like time is just so fluid and so fast. Like a day just goes by so fast to me, where you seem to have a lag before, even if I've been traveling, which always time lags when you travel. So I think there's definitely a lot of things going on simultaneously that are kind of making us as a Homo sapiens sapien kind of wake up to the reality that we're into and explore our consciousness, or as I call it, our soul, and to kind of question everything. Like, we've been lied to, and we're being misled, and we're being, fear has been weaponized against us. And I think hopefully if we stand together, we can, there is no cosmic alarm clock, the Galactic Federation is going to land here and like save us as a species. We're intelligent beings in some ways. We need to wake the what up and do this for ourselves. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the invention of the internet and the invent of podcasting. It's given us the autonomy to explore all these things that we, in our own home, in our own mind, in our own personal realm and our circles, and not be afraid of the answers that we might hear. So I think this is a fluid thing. Hope is fluid as well. But I haven't given up hope, and I do think things are going to get better. I do agree with a couple of the panel members before me that said it might get a little rockier before it gets better. I truly believe that, but I do think that all in all, we are looking at a bright new age that is coming upon us.
Awesome. So if I heard Space Jesus is going to lead a herd of Bigfoot down to battle the forces of evil and take out the enemy, I probably shouldn't be looking towards that. Dang it. Oh, well. We can all have our hopes. Let's do another round of shameless promotion for all the shows. If you got anything interesting upcoming you want to talk about, or websites or social media, just whore yourselves out. Cory, anything interesting upcoming?
Just the Forbidden Knowledge News Con, March 11th, 12th, and 13th. It's going to be Rokfin only, premium. So it's only $10 a month. It's the best $10 you can spend. You get everyone's premium stuff. It's awesome. And that's where it will be. So that's pretty much it. You can go to fkncon.forbiddenknowledge.news for more information.
Sweet. Right on. Karen, what you got?
Well, I'm just experimenting. My whole podcast is a whole lot of fun because I see guests on other shows. I hear about people. I just, it's like a lottery. I ask them if they want to be on the show, and surprisingly, they almost always do. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff. I've got Kevin Annett coming back on the show, and he's the one that's exposed the genocide of the First Nations people. And everything we've seen going on in the last 2 years globally was first tested out on Aboriginal children. So bless his heart for bringing this out and letting people know that it's not like this is nothing new. This has been going on for quite a while, hundreds of years in Canada, probably 300 years in Canada already. And I'm also having, like I mentioned, October Hallum and also Laura Lee Potvin are going to be on my show this week. And we're going to take a look at 2021 from an intuitive perspective, looking at the bigger picture. So not necessarily, oh, this happened, the government did this, and the government did that. Instead of that, we're going to talk about what could this mean on a spiritual perspective and on a bigger perspective as far as giving humankind the opportunity to advance. And then we're going to do 2 parts, and then the week after we're going to cover 2022. So that should be really interesting. I've had Chris and Cory on the show. I've had Gloria on the show. Ryder Lee's coming up on the 22nd of the second month of the 22nd year. And we're going to be talking about some fascinating stuff. But besides that, I also want to let people know that I have a YouTube channel and I have my own independent podcasts. And this year I'm going to focus on the shadow, because everyone's going, oh yeah, we're all walking in the light. We're all walking in the light. Well, we all have a shadow. We have a personal shadow. We have a collective shadow. We need to take a look at what does that look like, and by getting honest with ourselves and doing our own internal housekeeping, how we can actually help make this world a better place. So keep tuned in. I got all kinds of new guests, and I generally book about a month in advance. And that's the other thing I'm going to have in February is I'm going to have a fella on who's not only a gay and transgender activist, but also is rather talented at being a drag queen. And I think there's a lot of misinformation going on out there about the gay community. What's the difference between being, what's your sexuality, your sex, and your gender? They're 3 completely different things, and everyone thinks they're all the same thing. So we're going to do some education work around that too. So I'm pretty excited for the next month. Thanks for asking.
Awesome, Karen, and thank you for hooking me up with Kevin. I've got him coming on in a couple of weeks, so looking forward to that. All right, Ryder, what you got going?
You can subscribe to Raised by Giants YouTube channel. You can also follow Raised by Giants on any of the other podcast platforms. New videos premiering tonight at 6 p.m. PST with Michael Lee Hill, where we talk about 432 hertz, energy, Anunnaki, all kinds of different stuff. So tune in, come in and check it out. And then you can also find me on the Forbidden Knowledge News Network. And I thank all of you so much. I appreciate you all. Don't know where I would be without you guys. So I love all of you.
Oh, thank you, Ryder. And Gloria, whore yourself.
Hello. Yeah, I'm glad you told everyone to haul themselves out. It was only me last time, so I don't feel so targeted. Obviously, Inception podcasts, Inception specials will start up next week. They've had a 2-week break. You will be releasing them. Am I allowed to mention my other show?
Of course, anything you got.
You have been on it numerous times. Open Minds Chat Show is going really well still. It's nearly a year old, and on the 9th of February, I'm fully booked all the way through to April and beyond on that one. And I've also started, this is where I'm whoring myself out on your show. I've also started Waking the Dead Ghost Stories. It's Open Minds podcast. And the first one was last week with October. My God, the feedback I got back is wonderful. It's a pilot. I'm fully booked with guests for 8 weeks with that, and more waiting, in the sides to come on. So I'm really pleased about that. And I brought that on because of what's happening now with consciousness, spirituality, all the paranormal under one roof, So that's about it, really. Just keep going.
Awesome. Thank you, Gloria. And October, I know you have yet to have your first episode, and it's going to be on near-death experiences. We've been working to get you some pretty great guests for that, so looking forward to that. Anything else you'd like to talk about? You're muted.
I keep doing that. The first show is going to be on near-death experiences. The second one on ancient sites around the world, and the third one will be on the topic of suicide. So, and the suicide show will be interesting because I'm going to bring in archaeologists and anthropologists and discuss, how suicide was looked at through the ages, throughout history. In some cultures it was actually a code of honor to complete suicide. So I also want to destigmatize that word, for lack of better terms, so people feel more open to talk about. Let's face it, there's a lot of mental health issues going out right now around the world, and we all need a friend and somebody to talk to. And maybe a podcast like this, which I will bring on several people to talk about the subject, both professional and experiencers as well, just to kind of unpack it. So I think that's I guess my shameless plug is that the first 3 shows will be on near-death experiences, ancient sites, and the topic of suicide.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for coming on. This has been fantastic. You can catch all these shows at one place, forbiddenknowledge.news. That's our website. But individually, go check out everybody's individual YouTube channels, podcasts, websites. I'm going to have everybody's links in the description. Forbidden Knowledge News. Go check out our shows. We got Crow 777 coming on tomorrow. That's going to be a good one. So we look forward to all the good stuff we got coming out. And thank you all for coming on. And we'll see you again soon.
Bye.